It was so hard to watch this movie because you could tell that they were trying to cram in as much relevant and irrelevant information into this one feature film in order to create a world for the viewer to enter into. And the problem is that it's not organized well enough. There are some very critical pieces of information missing here. Hey y'all, it's Sarah and I'm back with another movie review. I've been getting back into movies that are adaptations of very popular young adult books. I remember watching this movie, Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, because I thought it was going to be scary. And I knew that it was based off of a very popular book, which I did not bother to read, and I haven't watched the TV series either. But this is one of those movies that had like all of the it actors of that time frame all together in this movie. So I watched it again because I wanted to refresh my memory and to see why it didn't really linger in my memory, we'll say. And that's because it's a bit of a mess. It is. It's about this girl named Clary who is a few days before her birthday starts seeing symbols and decides to go to a club where she thinks that she's witnessed a murder. She goes back home, doesn't tell her mother, falls asleep, wakes up and realizes that she has compulsively drawn these symbols all over these pieces of paper and like put them up all over the walls in her room. So she freaks out and decides to go to see her best friend Simon. And it's while she's there with him that she sees someone that she thought committed said murder and decides to confront him in an alleyway when she gets a call from her mother, who's in distress because someone has broken into their apartment, and she tells her not to come back home. So of course that's what Clary does, is she immediately runs back home to find that her mother is missing and that their apartment is jacked up and there's a monster left in the house. The guy that she saw commit the murder follows her to her apartment, kills the monster, and that's when he sort of introduces himself to her and to Simon, who like runs in way later because she like walked out of the coffee shop where she was supposed to be meeting him into the back alley, got that call from her mom, and then just ran home. Didn't tell Simon, just ran. This person, Jace, decides to take her back to what he says is a safe place, which is a place called the Institute, where people like him who are Shadowhunters live. The next few days, they're trying to help Clary. They find out that she has some mental blocks. They try to help her unblock her memory. They find out that a wizard put some of them there, so they go to find a wizard, and her friend Simon gets kidnapped, so then they gotta rescue Simon. They go back to the Institute, and they end up finding this relic that has been hidden by Clary's mother. So they give the relic to someone that they thought they could trust, and then he lets all the bad guys and the villains into the Institute, and there's a final showdown. So at the end of the movie, secrets are revealed and revelations occur, and Clary's mother is in a coma. The movie ends with her getting on the back of Jace's motorcycle and like riding into the city. It's supposed to be in New York City, by the way. In Brooklyn specifically, which I was like, okay. And that's how it ends. Okay, so I skipped over a lot of stuff because it doesn't matter. It's not organized very well. First of all, how old is Clary and how old is Simon? I need to know, because I assume that she's in high school and this was during the summertime, because she ain't got no job and is not talking about plans for the future. And I assume that at the end of the summer, which is when this is occurring, that she'll go back to school. She has two friends, one best friend, one who's more of Simon's friend than her friend, and that's it. She got a total of two friends. We're assuming, because we see flashbacks so frequently in this movie of her as a kid in the exact same apartment that she grew up there, that she's been there since she was a little kid, growing up in the exact same place. She only got 2 friends, and her interest is in art. Like, everywhere you see, you got art books, drawings, her dresses, her outfit's a little quirky, and all of that. Doesn't talk about art school, doesn't talk about becoming an artist, doesn't talk about the kind of art she likes. Clary also doesn't have a grandmother or grandfather or aunts or uncles, and her mother only has 1 friend as well, which was a bit odd. Her deciding that before her birthday she wants to go to a club, and she thinks that by letting her hair down they're gonna let her into the club. And this is a club where the vibe is like tight, ripped clothes, piercings, tattoos, shaved heads, wildly colored hair. Also, seeing things that she's not supposed to see. Did that just start happening? Because if she's been seeing stuff this whole time randomly, her lack of urgency in addressing that with her mother was a bit unbelievable. If your hand is drawing things without your knowledge, if you don't remember drawing what look like hundreds of these symbols on hundreds of pieces of paper and taping hundreds of pieces of paper to the walls of your bedroom, if you're making symbols with your sugar over your rather beautiful latte and you don't remember doing it, if you can see symbols and people and talk to them that other people can't see, and your first thought isn't, I need to talk to someone about this, that was odd and totally unbelievable. Because what do you have to lose? It's not like you're gonna miss school, or you have to explain things to a bunch of your friends, or that someone will see you and it'll be awkward because she only knows 2 people. Here's the thing. Y'all live in Brooklyn, New York. Your mother is a full-time artist, and that's all she does is like work in her studio at home, make art, and then sell it. She don't have to be out there with her foot to the sidewalk, hawking her wares in a trunk show or a pop-up, or trying to get her stuff seen in a gallery or reviewed or whatever. She don't have to do nothing but come home, work in her studio, and that's it. That seemed unbelievable. Her running to Luke's shop and us not knowing where she's going or what it is was quite bizarre. Does he own the shop? What is it? It looks like a thrift store, an antique store, but we don't know because we hadn't seen it before. She's just running down the sidewalk in a random part of the city, and we see her looking for something, and then she mentions Luke's name, and we'd only heard it like once before. He is not a well-established character at that point, so we're just like, where is she going? And why is she running? Then people came, kidnapped her mother. She did not call the cops. Old boy came, killed that demon, still didn't call the cops. And I mean, even just to acknowledge the fact that her mother is missing, and depending on her age, which we don't know, that matters. To see her wandering around without a parent. Her interest in Jace, understandable. He's new to her. She don't know him. Tattoos, ooh la la. His best friend / coworker, Alec, being like, she's a distraction, because clearly she is, because she's here. It's one thing if y'all just want to have like a quick little fling or whatever. It's a whole other thing for you to bring her here. Him being annoyed by that and like, she's gonna get us killed, this is really dangerous and reckless, he's not wrong. The attraction thing is none of Clary's business. And I mean that. That was her totally stepping out of bounds. She's got her foot in a world that she is not a part of. She's looking for her mother, so that's why she's there. Everything that she's doing with them at this point is for her own self-interest. It's not because she wants to be a part of that culture and like enter into becoming a Shadowhunter or anything like that. It's because she's trying to find her mom, and in so doing is kind of finding out that there's much more to the story, but it's all for her own self-interest. The surprises are not a surprise. That whole twist about Valentine being her father is not a twist. They showed her mother pregnant in that flashback in pictures of her and Valentine hugged up, and we assume that it's not Luke because he don't act like it. And the only other person that she's close to in all of these flashbacks and all of these photos is Valentine. So it's not a twist that she is his daughter. Also, Valentine's character was very confusing. The goal of trying to control demons by contaminating yourself with their blood doesn't make any sense at all. I feel like that should have killed him. Him drinking from the cup also didn't make any sense. And they don't explain why that was supposed to work at all. Him drinking out of the cup was supposed to do what? In the origin story they tell about this cup, an angel, pre-Raphaelite angel, flowing robes with a sword angel, bled into the cup, and those who drank it gained the powers and whatnot. I don't understand how the cup would even be effective at that point because they never explain. Everybody's just going after this cup, and I guess he thinks through, I don't know, sorcery, alchemy, witchcraft, whatever, that somehow he can make the cup work. The fact that everybody's parents are dead, Alec and his sister's parents don't exist, don't have brothers, cousins, sisters, no other aunties, uncles. Jace too, he said that, you know, who his parents were, where they at? Hodge doesn't have no parentage. It's literally Hodge, Alec, Isabel, and Jace in this building. It's 4 people living in this building. You're telling me that there's this society of Shadowhunters, and it's their job to kill demons, and where the demons come from, not quite sure because they don't discuss that or give us much detail about that. We assume that they're summoned and that they're being summoned by Valentine, but I'm like, all the demons? Anyway, vampires exist, werewolves exist, witches exist, wizards exist. There's a lot of magical beings, supernatural beings that exist within the world that they're building, but the organization of them is a bit vague, saying that the Shadowhunters have a truce with werewolves. That was interesting. Clary's powers sort of manifesting the way that they did, that was kind of interesting. Luke having like a padded cell to change safely in there was odd and an interesting detail, but also, what was that building that he would have one of those? Did he move that in there? It just seemed odd and didn't make a whole lot of sense for it to be there, but it added an interesting detail as you're watching the movie. The scene where Jace takes Clary to the mausoleum to see if she can get her memory back, so dramatic. And it did add a bit to like the origins of the Shadowhunters. It did give us a bit more of that, but the whole ceremony was ineffective, and the only reason why it was there was to get you to the next scene, which is when they're like, okay, so that didn't work, but it did give us a clue to the very next scene, which is going to see a wizard. Then they had to do a makeover to make it into the wizard's party. Apparently everybody was invited. There was nobody who was showing up for this event who was getting turned away at the door, especially when they panned through the room. Somebody just walking in regular clothes is gonna be turned away, please. Also, Clary's style changing was so bizarre. It was like someone who really likes someone famous and starts dressing like them and speaking like them and acting like them. That's why I need to know how old she is, because all of a sudden she's wearing black on black. She's wearing a leather coat in the summertime, I'm assuming, black fingernail polish, smoky eye. What is going on here? So I'm like, okay, we're here. We might as well keep this wackadoodle thing going. Like, Hodge being agoraphobic was stupid. If you can heal a broken heart with a rune, why can't y'all heal the mind, if that is what his problem is. Also, y'all got money. Why can't you just hire a therapist? They don't have computers in there. I didn't see any computers. It's all very like medieval in there, but they know what computers are and they know what cell phones are. So, Talkspace, BetterHelp, whatever, could have been doing that way before then. It just didn't make any sense. That being the reason, that was so weak. And that portal thing, I was like, oh, so that's an open door. As soon as they explained what it was and the gel, like using it to temporarily transport, I was like, oh, that's a big old open doorway. She should have died when she jumped into that thing. They're giving Clary way too much in this movie. I mean, really. It reminds me of thriller movies where you have the villain suddenly able to be invisible to people, super strong, or incredibly silent to where they can't hear him, like creeping up behind them and whatnot. All of a sudden, Clary has the mental strength superseding years of training that the other Shadowhunters have had to do in order to be able to use it. She just jumps in, jumps out, fully alive, directly in front of Luke's shop. Her being able to control her powers at all and didn't end up like falling into a 2D world herself and getting stuck in there or something silly like that. And all of a sudden the cup is there. She puts the cup down and it's gone. And then she just like slowly reaches in, pulls the cup out. Clary does not seem like someone who is very disciplined. She just seems to just do whatever. Running down the street, she'll trip and fall. Going down the stairs, she tripped and fell. She actually got hit by a guy on a bike because she wasn't paying attention and was running down the street. Almost got hit by a car. And I don't know if that was the point to make her seem, kind of klutzy, but there's not a lot of character development from her. There's slightly more from Jace, and we don't see him nearly as much. None at all from Simon. We don't know what's going on with Simon in his life. We don't see his parents. We see his one other friend who apparently writes bad poetry, but that's about it, What is he interested in besides Clary in a very obvious way? I guess they grew up together or whatever, but we don't really know that because we don't see him in the flashbacks. We only see her. It's all about Clary. It's all about her. But we're not really getting a lot from her other than I like to draw and I like Jace and I like Simon, but as a friend. A lot of it was just like, let's go. People forgetting that they're in danger. People forgetting about like, hey, left that door open kind of thing where you're running from someone and it's like, did you know you left that door open? That thing that you are not focused on right now is still happening. Her suddenly having the ability to recall runes that she's never seen before at the exact moment where they need her help. Now, that scene was great. Them freezing and then them walking past like a scene out of Silent Hill. That was great. I like that. But the werewolf transformations were odd looking. Like long fingernails, big teeth, and big hair. Come on. You guys could have did better than that. I felt like some of the Lukes, like for example from the party where you have all these different kinds of beings coming together, was very much like Halloween-y. I feel like they could have been done a lot better and just reorganize the whole thing. A lot more character development. And her like leaving with Jace was just like, girl, what? You don't want to be a Shadowhunter. You want to be with Jace. The idea that she will stop and drop everything, all of her current plans, which we don't know what the plans are, but we assume that she had them. Her mother is in the hospital. She's in a coma, and you're going to leave and go run off to fight demons? Okay. There's that teenager again. They're them hormones again. They're the whole reason they make the decisions that they make. Not to show us more of their character, but just because, teenagers just be doing stuff. Like her in the club, that was funny. That bouncer let them two randos in that club and she's in there ootsing. But you guys let me know what you think. Do y'all remember this movie? Did y'all watch it? What did you think? Please let me know. And thank you for spending your time here with me. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all next time.